Good morning, students. Welcome to the first lecture of biology on the chapter Improvement in Food Resources. To begin with, we must first know that why we should study this chapter. We all know that India is a very big country and the population is growing every day. As of now, we can say that our population is around 1.3 billion. And our country ranks second in population growth. It is just next to China. So to feed such a big population is a very big problem for the government. To make sure that everybody gets food, certain management practices needs to be adopted so that our productivity increases. For this, we know that the maximum part of whatever available land is there is already used by the farmers for agriculture, and we do not have more area that can be used for more of this practicing agriculture. So, what is the other way that is left out for us to improve the yield? It is only that we can adopt certain improvement methods that will in turn increase our productivity, and that can be achieved only by undertaking certain scientific management practices. Now, before we proceed further, we must know this term sustainable agriculture. So, what is sustainable agriculture? It is an agriculture where various farming and production management practices are adopted to maximize the agricultural yield. So, what is the need for this? Because human beings are doing all kinds of activities that is destroying the nature, that is interfering with the nature. So, the conservation of natural resources is very important. And at the same time, the environmental balance needs to be maintained and the biological cycles needs to be restored so that everything is in harmony. And for all that, this practice of sustainable agriculture is very much important, because sustainable agriculture will involve activities like organic farming, biological and natural control of pests, then it will ensure pollution-free food for the population and with least damage to our ecosystem. So, sustainable agriculture needs to be practiced. Now, there are many advantages of this sustainable agriculture. That is, it will control our biogeochemical cycles, it will protect and renew the soil fertility, then the management of farm resources would be done, and the reduction in the use of non-renewable resources will be there, and also it will provide an opportunity for the farmers, family and the farm community. Now, we need to know about these two names, M.S. Swaminathan and Dr. V. Kurian. M.S. Swaminathan is known as the father of Green Revolution and Dr. V. Kurian is the father of White Revolution. Because of these people's effort, there has been an increased production in the crops in our country. So, apart from this Green Revolution and White Revolution, I have cited here some more examples of revolution. The Blue Revolution, which has led to high production of fish. Yellow Revolution, which has led to high production of oil. Golden Revolution, which has led to high production of pulses. And the pulse is the only protein source for a vegetarian person. Now, in this slide, you can see the different types of crops that human beings cultivate. Like You can see here seeds are there, fruits, vegetables, then spices, fodder crops, and then I have put some crops in the category as other crops. Now seeds, all seeds of plants are not edible. So those edible seeds are the ones which are edible. I have cited examples as that of cereals, pulses, oil seeds, then the nuts. Nuts means all the dry fruit variety. Then we have the fruits, variety of fruits available in the market. Then the variety of vegetables, the spices which are used to enhance the palatability of the food, which may include chili, turmeric, black pepper, cumin, then you can have cinnamon, etc. Then we have fodder crops. Man has also cultivated fodder crops for the feeding of the cattle. I have cited some examples like your berseem and Sudan grass, and you can have oats and sorghum, and these are some of the fodder crops. And in others, I have just given you examples like tea, coffee, and tobacco. These are the crops which we can say as cash crops. So these are also grown by the human beings. So these are all either consumed or they are grown for feeding the cattle. Now the next topic of discussion is the major group of activities which are undertaken for improving the crop yields. What all activities does a farmer undertake to improve the yields of the crop? So the major groups of activities can be discussed under mainly three headings. That is your crop variety improvement, crop production improvement, and crop protection management. So one by one we will take up one by one of each topic and then we discuss in detail about that. Now first one is crop variety improvement. So what is crop variety improvement? Variety means the quality of the crop needs to be improved, and that can be achieved via hybridization, or it can be also achieved by introducing a stretch of a DNA into the plant's genome. What we call it as producing genetically modified crops. So hybridization can be done in three ways. It may be intervarietal, it can be intergeneric, it can be interspecific. So first we should know what is hybridization. As per your NCERT, hybridization refers to the crossing between genetically dissimilar plants, which means the plants are having different characteristics. So with the two plants having desirable characters, if we cross them, we will get a third quality plant variety, which will be of a definitely superior quality, having the characters of the two parent plants. So that is what is hybridization, whereby the genes get mixed up. Now intervarietal, here the plants involved belong to the same species, and they may be of two varieties or two races or two strains. Like for example, we can say that crossing between two varieties of wheat or rice. Then for intergeneric, we can say that when parents belonging to two different genera are crossed, then they may be belonging to two genera but of the same family, as in case of pomato, which is produced from tomato and potato plant, and they belong to the same family. That family name is Solanaceae. Now here interspecific. Here the crossing is done between different species of the same genus. Now here I have cited an example that is a cross between a male lion, Panthera leo is the scientific name, and a female tiger, whereby the scientific name is Panthera tigris. Now what is the product? The product is a liger. Now you can see Panthera is common to both because the genus is the same but the species is different. That is Leo and the other one is Tigris. Now another example is mule, which is produced by crossing a male donkey with a female horse. And you should know that these products are generally sterile because their chromosomal number falls in odd. It is odd in number. Now next way of going for crop variety improvement is producing a genetically modified crop. And how? It by adding a specific stretch of a DNA into the already existing plant genome, and thereby what happens, a totally new plant with different characteristics is formed, and this could include this will result in changing the way the plant grows or making it resistant to a particular disease. Now the new DNA that is formed after this introduction of this stretch of a DNA becomes a part of that genetically modified plant's genome, and thereby the seeds will be produced, and when they are allowed to grow, they will be having the characters of the introduced genome. I can cite here, example is Bt cotton. Now this Bt stands for a bacteria, Bacillus thuringiensis. This bacteria is actually, the genes of this bacteria is introduced into this cotton plant, and the product is a very resistant one, which is resistant to all kinds of diseases. So Bt cotton is a improved variety of cotton plant. Now we will talk about the various factors for which variety improvement is done. We are talking about variety improvement. We talked about the methods by which this variety improvement can be done. Now what are the factors for which this variety improvement can be done? The factors for which variety improvement is done is to get a higher yield. Higher yield means where the productivity will increase. That is the production, that is your production per unit area. In 1 unit area, if the quantity of grain production increases, then we say yes, the yield has definitely increased, and quality seeds of improved varieties will be produced, and that will lead to economic gain. Then the second factor for which this is done, variety improvement is done to get an improved quality. Now improved quality means the crop product quality varies from product to product. Like in your NCERT some examples have been cited, like the baking quality of wheat can be improved, the protein quality of pulses can be improved, the oil quality from the oil seeds can be improved, the preserving quality of fruits and vegetables can be improved, that is they may have a longer shelf life. Then next point is your biotic and abiotic resistance. So under different situations, crops suffer due to biotic stresses such as disease, insects, nematodes, etc. And they also suffer from abiotic stresses like the environmental stresses such as drought, then salinity, waterlogging, heat, cold, frost. So if we develop varieties which are resistant to these biotic and abiotic stresses, then definitely we will have a significantly improved variety of crop. And we may have some examples in this, like in the we can say that high yielding variety, that is your HYV variety of wheat, which is released for cultivation in the areas such as Nilgiri and Palni hills, are resistant to all kinds of rusts. Rusts, rust is a disease of the wheat, so they become resistant. Then comes maturity duration, that is change in maturity duration. The quicker the plant matures, the better it is. So short duration crops are definitely preferable. Early maturing varieties can make the crop fit in double or multiple cropping systems. In 1 year, farmer can have several rounds of crop, and that will make him economically benefited. He will be economically sound. Supposedly, if he was having earlier only 2 rounds of crops in a year, now if we get through the variety improvement, if we happen to produce a seed which is maturing very early, then the farmer will be able to have at least 3 rounds of crops, and that way economically he will be benefited. Next point is wider adaptability. That means what? That is, those varieties of crops will be able to adapt to all kinds of environmental situations, and that will help them in surviving in every kind of a dangerous situation. Mostly it is referring to the environmental stresses. So if the crop or if the seeds are able to adapt themselves, the crops are able to adapt themselves to the change in the climatic conditions, then that is, the farmer is definitely going to incur less amount of loss. And then the last point is mentioned as desirable agronomic characteristics. So what do we mean by this desirable agronomic characteristics? All those characteristics which we want to have in the product. Like, in your NCERT, they have given you 2 examples: tallness and profuse branching for the fodder crops. And they have given another example of dwarfness in case of cereals. Why in case of cereals dwarfness is required? Because if it is dwarf, it will absorb less amount of nutrients from the soil. And tallness and profuse branching, if we have in case of fodder crops, then what will happen? More of the plant product will be there, so more of the hay will be produced, so quantity produced will be ultimately more, so the cattle will be fed with the large produce. So that way the productivity will increase. So these are the desirable. Agronomic means agricultural characteristics. What all characters we desire, we want in our plants to be there. Now, we will now proceed to the next topic, that is your crop production management. But before that, we must know what is the requirement of a plant. What kind of things a plant requires for its normal growth. Now this chart, as you can see, I have taken from NCERT. The left hand side shows you the source and the right hand side shows you the nutrients that is being supplied. Now plants get carbon and oxygen from air. They get hydrogen and oxygen from water, and from the soil they get the nutrients. That is, in total we have 16 nutrients. So nutrients have been classified into 2 categories, that is your macronutrients and micronutrients. So in the macronutrients, you can see some examples are given here as nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium and sulfur. And in the micronutrient category, we have iron, manganese, boron, zinc, copper, molybdenum and chlorine. So as you can see here, this is how much? 3 plus 2, 5 plus 2, 7 in number, and this is 6 in number. So this makes 13, and here we have 3. So in total it is 16. Now why is it that all these nutrients have to be supplied to the plants? It is because each one has a role to perform in the body of the plant. Now, if we talk about the macronutrients, what is their role? They take part in the building of the plant body. And how? They take part in forming the different protoplasmic structures. They are called macro because they are required in more amount. What is the amount they are required? 1 milligram per gram of dry matter of the plant. And micro, as the name itself tells you, it is required in less amount. How much less amount? Just less than 1 milligram per gram of the dry matter of the plant. And macronutrient, as I told you, they play a role in building the plant body. That is the different protoplasmic structures. The micronutrients have got a role in enzyme activity. Because in the plant's body also, lot of physiological reactions are going on. Physiological phenomenon is going on. Respiration is going on. Photosynthesis is going on. And they all are enzyme mediated reactions. So for the enzyme activity, we need these micronutrients. Now deficiency of magnesium, for deficiency of these nutrients may cause some diseases. Like for example, I can tell you chlorosis of the leaves may happen because of the deficiency of magnesium. So magnesium is a nutrient which helps in the formation of chlorophyll. Then sometimes the physiological activity of the plant gets the rate gets affected. Then the growth rate gets affected. So we should make sure that all these nutrients are available to the plants so that they can lead their normal physiological activities. So that's all for now. Thank you.